Representative Fu Lee, representing North Minneapolis, and I'm the DFL co-chair of the House Capital Investment Committee. Nearly $5 million in state and federal resources has been allocated for lead service line removal since 2023, and nearly all of it will be exhausted by the 2026 construction season. Without action this session, there will be no lead line removal program in 2027, and that is why we are all here today. Last fall, the Capital Investment Committee, chaired by myself and Chair Franzen, who will be speaking later, went on several regional tours across the state, visiting hundreds of projects and hearing from communities all over. I think the most important thing we heard was that no matter the zip code, water and water infrastructure is key, and lead service line is part of that conversation. No amount of lead is safe. It's going to take action at all levels of government to build a world in which Minnesota is finally lead-free. That means the passage of regular, dependable capital investment bills that can lend a helping hand to communities in every corner of this state. This is an important issue. It's not a Democrat or Republican issue, which is why you'll see a bipartisan push alongside a broad coalition to deliver the solutions that Minnesotans are counting for. With that, I will turn it over to my co-chair, Chair Franzen. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Co-Chair Franzen here, representing District 12B. We bond because it's our responsibility to take care of public assets, water projects, local roads and bridges, and state-owned properties. Taxpayers of Minnesota expect these assets to be taken care of. They expect safe roads and safe bridges, and they expect clean and safe drinking water. This is the land of 10,000 lakes, after all. This is a basic function of state government. 3 years ago, the legislature passed a bill calling for the removal and replacement of all lead service lines in our state. We provided the large down payment necessary to ensure cities large and small could map, identify, and begin replacing lead pipes, whether they are found in the public right-of-way or buried under private property, and do it at no cost to the taxpayer or to the property owner. That bill was unanimous in the House and 63 votes in the Senate. Sometimes it can be hard around here to get many legislators to agree, but today is Wednesday. We did it because we agree there is no safe level of lead in drinking water, and we are committed to removing lead service lines in every community across the state. This bill is working as intended. Cities of every corner of the state are mapping, identifying, and replacing those pipes, and it is our responsibility to continue supporting that work. The need is too great, it is too urgent, and it is too important to drop the ball and let up now. All Minnesotans should have access to clean, safe drinking water, and I am pleased to be here with my colleagues in the House and Senate to make sure this work will continue. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. My name is Raquel Vasky. I serve as the general manager here in St. Paul for St. Paul Regional Water Services. Every single day, we serve 450,000 people in 14 cities as a regional entity. And lead has really taken over our world in the last 4 years. In 2022, we launched our lead-free pilot program in an attempt to try this work both internally and through partnerships with contractors. I'm here today to say that it's working. We're 4 years into this project at this point. Year over year, we've doubled the amount of lead that we've been removing, and we've really reached a peak opportunity where our cost per lead service line replacement is coming down. We've developed an internal workforce development program. We've also made great partnerships with contractors to really help remove this lead in an efficient and effective way at scale. Our initial goal to remove that lead in 10 years is still on track for now. Although this is a very important moment in time in order to keep it that way. At St. Paul Regional Water Services alone, we started with about 26,000 lead service lines. About a quarter of our customers had a lead service line. We're unbelievably proud to say that about 6,000 of those will have been replaced by the end of this construction season. However, without additional funding, we're looking at 18,000 to 20,000 additional lead service lines in the St. Paul area alone that will remain lead if we can't keep this program going. So we're thankful for the time that we've had here with our legislators and the support that they've already given to this program, and we're hopeful that we can keep this great work going.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. My name is Bradley Peterson. I am the Executive Director of the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities, and I want to thank Chairs Pappas, Chair Lee, and Franson for being here with us today to highlight this tremendously important issue. As has been stated, it is a statewide issue. Statewide, we know that there are approximately 100,000 lead service lines that we know of that need to be replaced. There's also over 200,000 that we are still assessing the status of, and that work is ongoing. The average cost of replacing lead service lines is between $10,000 and $15,000. That cost, as stated, is coming down, but we need to keep the momentum going. As has been stated, the $240 million that was passed on a bipartisan basis in 2023 is just a down payment. And if we're going to keep that work going, we need to have investments this year. This is a statewide issue. Cities across greater Minnesota, including Brainerd, Winona, Moorhead, and Duluth, have identified lines that need replacement. There's also many, many small towns that have tens of lines that need to be replaced as well. And so as the legislature closes, there's nothing better that they could spend our precious dollars on this year than lead service line replacement and removal. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Joel Smith, President, Business Manager of Liuna, Minnesota, and North Dakota, representing more than 14,000 skilled construction workers who build and maintain the infrastructure communities count on every single day. Removing lead lines, lead pipes is not a partisan issue. It's a public health issue, and it is a local careers issue. There aren't just Twin City pipes. Communities across greater Minnesota have lines that need to come out. Since the law passed in 2023, Liuna laborers have been removing, replacing lead service lines all across Minnesota, proudly and skillfully. But here's the problem. All the state funding to replace lead pipes will be exhausted through the 2026 construction season. And the last of the federal money stops next year. If this legislation session does not act in the next 2 weeks, next year's construction season will replace less than half the pipes we remove this year. And that is a problem, full stop. Here's what that means in practical terms. At least 90,000 lead pipes will remain in the ground, and all the momentum we've built, all the trained workers, all the local contractors, and all the established partnerships evaporates. We can't simply turn the momentum back on 2028. Replacing those service lines would create an estimated 2,400 good union jobs in a year for the next 10 years. These are family-sustaining, living wage careers for laborers across the entire state. We know this session has its challenges, but hear me loud and clear. Every year should be a bonding year. We are asking lawmakers to get the job done before you go home. Please pass the infrastructure jobs bill. Keep Minnesota moving forward. Thank you.
So with that, we'll take questions, if there are any.
For the chairs and co-chairs, do you feel like your leadership hears you on this issue? Do they view this as important an issue as you do?
Hello, everyone. I'm Senator Sandy Pappas. I chair the Capital Investment Committee in the Senate. Yes, I feel like the leadership has heard that we need to have a capital investment bill this year, and I'm proposing in the Senate, on the Senate side, on behalf of the DFL, $100 million in appropriation bonds for lead service lines. I know the need is actually $250 million, but I think $100 million would get us through the next year, and so we do need to be passing bonding bills every year. Of course, this is the bonding bill year, and yet we still are, 10 days until the end of session, and I have to say I'm a really nervous Nelly about the whole thing. It's really important to all of Minnesota that we get this infrastructure bill passed. We know what the water needs are, we know what the sewer needs are, we know what the road needs are, and we know what the lead service lines needs are. And we need that $100 million in appropriation bonds to be in the bill. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say that, Chair Franson and I, we have been having conversation on what to include in the bonding bill and at what size, and I think that for the two of us, it is important that we address the affordability of the needs for our private side, just making sure that whether that's, general fund cash or appropriation bonds, as Senator Pappas mentioned, that we actually take care of the homeowners. You heard a line cost from $10,000 to $15,000 and just to replace. And if you think about assessment, that's roughly $1,000 or so per residence. And I think that that's a cost that our residents right now cannot afford.
Where's Senator Housley today? Was she invited to this?
I've been working closely with Senator Housley. She had another commitment and couldn't be here, but she does support a bonding bill. I'm not sure what the holdup is. You have to ask the leaders that.
And sorry, is 250 million is the amount that you need to complete, what is the total amount that's needed over time, you think, to complete everything?
So based on the estimates from the Department of Health, probably about $1 billion is what you're looking at. And so, the legislature made a great investment in 2023 with 240. If we can get the 100 or so this year, that keeps us going. There's some federal money still left, but overall, it's going to be $1 billion project. The EPA has set a 2037 goal to have all of them done nationwide, and that's why we need to keep ahead of the game here and keep these investments going.
And do you need to authorize the more, bonding or more state funds in order to unlock some of that remaining federal money? Is it like a match situation, or could the federal money be available either way?
I think the federal money, my understanding is it's currently available. But there's not much left, is the point.
Other questions?
Gotten off topic. Bradley, can you talk about zoning reform stuff? Is that dead? Where does that stand? Where do you guys, how have you been involved in that?
Be happy to talk to you about that offline.
And is there any way, if you didn't come together with a bonding bill, there's not that much cash for $100 million. Is there other funding mechanisms anybody here has looked into to unlock a little bit more money if you can't do a bonding bill this year, or no?
If we don't finish a bonding bill by the third Monday in May or the Sunday night at midnight, there probably won't be a bonding bill. Last year, we did go into special session, but during the even year, which is an election year, since we already have a budget in place, it's very unlikely we do a special session. So it's like, do or die.
But there's not cash obviously available for this, yeah, right, okay.
Have the three of you heard any indication from leadership, any target talk going on yet? Or are you talking on your own at all about what you would like to see, even if leaders aren't quite at that point?
So I think at a high level, as may have been reported from, I think at the leadership table, there's a self-imposed deadline for them, or maybe this weekend. I think that'll be telling if we will be able to move forward or not. But at least the three of us, we are looking at different sizes of bill that we could really do, from the debt management guideline from MMB, we could do up to 1.2 with some flexibility up to a certain amount of, I think, 1.9. But right now, we're having discussion and, having conversation about what's should be included and what should not be included. And I think the lead service line is an important component that we are really considering putting into any bonding bill that will be released, should we have one soon.
Anything to add, Co-Chair?
I'll let her go in a minute. I've just been advocating publicly for a 1.4, but it'll be up to others to decide.
My concern is that our bonding dollars don't go as far as they once did. So in 1998, a billion-dollar bonding bill was passed, and at that time, it was kind of unheard of. I was chatting with Senator Westrom about that 1998 bill. And in today's dollars, that would be over $2 billion. And so if we pass, let's hypothetically say it's $1 billion, we're looking at in 1998 dollars, that'd be about $445 million. And so as communities come to us every year with, can you turn that off? He's super cute, okay? No. So these communities come to us with their millions and millions of dollars in requests. You know, we have some wastewaters that are like 70, 80 million dollars in order to meet the MPCA guidelines. And the bonding bill, we just don't have that capacity anymore to do that. And so these communities are getting little chunks here and there, and then they're like, oh, well, thank you for my $5 million, but that just is a drop in the bucket. So I think we're gonna have to start looking at dedicated funding, which I had introduced a bill earlier this year, dedicated funding to deal with that critical water infrastructure and include the lead pipe replacement, because we aren't getting ahead, we're just continually falling behind.
What is the likelihood that St. Paul's Arena has requests for bonding money for the arena and civic center upgrades? What is the likelihood that that would end up in a final package at this point from all of your perspectives?
Well, I think a $200 million request is unrealistic. I mean, when you consider what the statewide needs are, I just don't think the state is willing to come up with that. I did author the bill to allow the sales tax to be extended to continue to help with the complex. I'm especially concerned about Roy Wilkins because it's over 100 years old, and I think Metro State just had their graduation there this weekend where there was the shooting. So that would be my focus. It would be Roy Wilkins, but the dollar amount is unknown.
House chairs, do you have any thoughts on?
No, I would just add that, at least on the House side for House Democrats, as we evaluate projects, really talking to the local members. And, we have heard from local members about the importance of just projects. And I think, for us in St. Paul, really looking at how do we reduce 7th Street from Cadillac down to I-35, really looking at just some of the other critical infrastructure that's needed in St. Paul. And so this is an ongoing conversation. Should we do something? I think that there's an ability, Roy Wilkins Arena, I think that's something that we should really think about. And, just in general about stadiums, sports arena, I think my position, and I have made it clear in the committee, is that right now, to Chair Franson's point, communities across the state are, facing critical infrastructure needs. And so how do we really move forward and balance the needs across the entire state? Because, in the city of Minneapolis, where I represent, we have, 3 stadiums down in there. US Bank Stadium, that's owned by the state of Minnesota, Target Center, that's owned by the city of Minneapolis, and Target Field, that's owned by Hennepin County. And so I think that we have to really be balanced. If we do support one, is there an expectation for the future for the state of Minnesota to take care of those other assets too? And I really want us to be diligent about funding for sports arena in a time of need for critical infrastructure in all of our communities across the state.
Chair Franson, anything?
I can't say it any better.
We good? All right. Thanks everyone for being here. Let's wrap.
Thank you, guys.